The Sirah, the prophetic biography, not only is a source of inspiration and guidance, but it is absolutely crucial and fundamental in understanding the Quran and understanding our religion of Islam as a whole, without which our understanding would be deficient and distorted. Shaykh Muhammad Imdad Hussain Pirzada, the elder scholar of our community, in his latest research has outlined 4 distinct areas of the Sirah. These 4 areas are: you have the 13 years of Mecca, the first 5 years of Medina, the latter 5 years of Medina, and you have the 15 years the Muslims spent in Abyssinia. This 4th era, where the Muslims lived in what is now modern-day Eritrea, Ethiopia, Sudan and Somalia, for 15 years is an area of the Sirah that is often overlooked. So let us explore a little into this era of the Sirah by exploring the context and by reflecting on the lasting legacy which is a part of the prophetic biography. What led to the migration? During the years of Mecca, we hear of the detailed and graphic accounts of the persecution the Muslims experienced, just for saying that they believed in one God, and for speaking against the vile practices of the disbelievers of Mecca. When the Prophet ﷺ witnessed his selfless companions unable to pray, unable to practice the religion, unable to recite the Quran loudly in the sacred mosque, and instead faced the brute force of the disbelievers of Mecca, the Prophet ﷺ advised some Muslims to migrate to lands of Abyssinia. The first group of Muslims left for Abyssinia in the 5th year after the announcement of prophethood. The question arises, out of all places, why Africa? Why Abyssinia? Why Habasha? The answer to this question is simply the Christian king of Abyssinia himself. The Prophet ﷺ advised his devout companions to leave for the lands of Abyssinia, for there was such a king there in whose kingdom, in the words of the Prophet, لا يظلم عنده أحد, no one is inflicted with oppression under his rule. It was his justice, his fairness, his honesty and equality. Who migrated? The first group to migrate to Abyssinia were 12 men and 4 women, and this group was led by the companion Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu. And amongst this first group was the beloved daughter of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ruqayya radiallahu anha. When they arrived, they were received with great honor and respect by al-Najashi himself, whose actual name is Ashama, and he also arranged for them a safe place to stay. After so much persecution and fear, the Muslims were finally able to breathe a sigh of relief, as they were able to worship with ease, recite the Quran without fear of an imminent strike lurking over their shoulders. They spent 3 months in great peace, but all of a sudden, a rumor spread that the disbelievers of Mecca have accepted Islam, and due to this, many Muslims returned to Mecca. This ground reality was in fact that the situation for the Muslims was worse than before. The Prophet ﷺ then granted permission for a second group of companions to depart for Abyssinia. This was a much larger group than the one before. It consisted of 83 companions, excluding women and children. This group was led by the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, Ja'far bin Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu. This second group was at least 7 times more in number than the first group, and this created much concern for the disbelievers of Mecca. They began to think, what if the Muslims gathered their strength in Abyssinia and launched an attack on Mecca? This led them to send Amr ibn al-As and Abdullah bin Rabi'ah as ambassadors to al-Najashi, al-Ashama, with many expensive gifts and presents to use to their advantage. They pleaded with him to send the Muslims back to Mecca, claiming that these Muslims invented a new religion and that they would spread corruption in the land of Abyssinia as they had done in Mecca. They went on to mention that the Muslims believe in Isa being a prophet of God and not the son of God. And they mentioned this in order to remove the sympathy Ashama had for the Muslims. The king, after hearing these claims, called for the Muslims to present their case. the king began questioning regarding Islam. Who was in front of him was the cousin of the Prophet, Ja'far bin Abi Talib. He asked them, what is this religion that you believe in that has made you turn away from the beliefs of your ancestors? Ja'far radiallahu anhu responded that before Islam, we were engaged in all kinds of immoral activities. We were ignorant, we would worship idols, we'd mistreat our relatives, abuse the rights of the poor, the elite would usurp the rights of the weak. But then Allah Almighty sent a messenger whose truthfulness, whose honesty, whose lineage, whose chastity we are all aware of, who guided us, who told us to worship one God, abandon the idols, speak the truth, uphold the rights of others, and do not engage in bloodshed. We believed because of this, the disbelievers of Makkah became enemies of the Muslims, and they inflicted much distress upon us, and so we came to Abyssinia. Then the king asked, what does your Quran say about Isa alayhi salam, Jesus? Ja'far bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu responded by reciting verses from the Quran, chapter 19, Surah Maryam. After hearing the verses of the Quran, al-Najashi al-Ashama began to cry, but his companions also began to cry, and they cried so much that their beards and the pages of the Gospels that were in front of them became wet with the tears that they shed. And Najashi then said to Sayyidina Ja'far bin Abi Talib that these words and the words which were revealed upon Prophet Isa alayhi salam are rays of one light. The impact of this conversation was such that An-Najashi turned to the Muslims saying, stay in the land of my kingdom with peace. Whoever swears at you will be penalized. And if someone was to give me a mountain full of gold, even then I would not distress any one of you. The king sent back the ambassadors, and he sent along with them the gifts that they had brought. A point of reflection here is that the Muslims faced incredible persecution in Makkah, and they had to leave Makkah. And when they left, the disbelievers of Makkah went after them to bring them back as prisoners. And in all of this, An-Najashi refused to give up on these Muslims who sought security under his rule, to the extent that not only did he send the ambassadors back to Makkah, but he returned their gifts as well. This incident proves as a testimony to the words of the Prophet ﷺ that the king of Abyssinia was a king that was not an oppressive ruler. Despite the luxurious gifts brought for him, he did not waver in being just. Approximately 100 to 200 Muslims resided in Abyssinia. Among them, more than 100 women, children and men came from Makkah. And from Yemen, you had Abu Musa al-Ashari radiallahu anhu, who came with 53 more. And the Abyssinian government provided all of them with all kinds of ease, comfort and protection. The Muslims also displayed incredible loyalty. They lived honorably, they performed good deeds, they demonstrated upright character through which they were respected highly. And some of them witnessed, some of those individuals who witnessed the conduct and the character of these Muslims even accepted Islam. The Muslims lived in that society and committed no crimes. They lived within that society without becoming a burden upon the state. Rather, they contributed positively, supporting themselves through honest trade and engaging with fellow citizens in an amicable manner. They did not merely reciprocate the good shown to them, but they went far and beyond that, displaying and enacting upon the noble teachings of the Prophet ﷺ. The Muslims, they gave respect and they were respected. And that respect can be seen in the example when the Muslims went to Abyssinia. Just 1 year later, they built the first mosque from which a public call to prayer was made. Shaykh Pirzada refers to this mosque in his research as the first purpose-built mosque. This mosque is central. Mosques are central for Muslims. The mosque is a center of worship, a center of spiritual growth and development, and it is a center of education. In Makkah, having a purpose-built mosque was not possible. Why? Due to the level of onslaught and persecution against the Muslims. In Makkah, Muslims had to pray secretly, pray in different places, but Abyssinia was different. This mosque became known as Masjid al-Sahaba, the mosque of the companions, and it was built 7 years before Masjid al-Quba. Alongside the beautiful character of the Muslims, their honorable living, they also showed sincere appreciation and gratitude to al-Najashi for the kindness, protection and freedom he provided. And a powerful reflection of that is found in the report of the mother of the believers, Salma radiallahu anha, when she mentions a time when a person raised a flag of rebellion against al-Najashi, and there was a fear of his rule falling. And she says, we the Muslims were so intensely sorrowful that we had never been more sorrowful whilst we were there. And she gives the reason why, behind that sorrow. She says this was because that if the rebel became victorious, the al-Najashi al-Asama would no longer be able to grant us the ease and freedom he had given us. And so what did the Muslims do in this case? She says, we supplicated to Allah. We made dua for al-Najashi so that he is victorious over his enemy and he remains in charge of his kingdom. When we heard that Allah had granted victory to al-Najashi and had destroyed his enemy, we became the happiest we had ever been there. The Muslims migrated from the city of Mecca due to the ongoing oppression in the 5th year after prophetic announcement and remained there for 15 years. But their return was not to Mecca, their return was to the established Muslim society in Medina. In the 7th year after migration, Ja'far bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu returned from Abyssinia. And the day of the return was the same day that the conquest of Khaybar took place. And when the Prophet ﷺ saw Ja'far bin Abi Talib, he kissed him between his eyes. He embraced him and he said, "Ma adri bi'ayyima usarru bifathi Khaybara or biqudumi Ja'far." I don't know which of the two matters have made me happier, the conquest of Khaybar or the arrival of Ja'far. And Najashi al-Asama, he was somebody who experienced Islam and saw Islam from the Muslims. And later when the peace treaty took place, or the treaty of Hudaybiyah was signed between the Prophet and the Quraysh, the Prophet ﷺ sent letters to many leaders, sent letters to kings, inviting them to Islam, and one of them was al-Najashi. The noble companion Amr bin Umayyah al-Damri radiallahu anhu took the letter to al-Ashama, and after reading it, al-Najashi accepted Islam. And he wrote a letter to the Prophet ﷺ declaring his faith and his allegiance to the Prophet ﷺ. The love instilled within him for the Prophet ﷺ can be seen when al-Ashama said the following words, "By Allah, if I was not occupied with the affairs of my kingdom, I would certainly come and sit with him. I would lift his sandals and pour water of ablution for him." When he passed away, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, told the companions he had passed away. The Prophet ﷺ led the companions in the funeral prayer from Medina, whilst the body of Najashi al-Ashama was in Abyssinia. The appreciation displayed by the companions was what the Prophet ﷺ had taught. And in the narration of Abu Umama radiallahu anhu, this is evident that when the envoy came from al-Najashi to the Prophet ﷺ in Medina, the Prophet ﷺ stood from his place to serve them. The companions spoke out, "We are enough to serve them." But the Prophet ﷺ responded, "They honored and welcomed our companions." When our companions migrated to Abyssinia, they honored and welcomed them. And for this reason, I desire to honor and welcome them in exchange for that. Allah Almighty tells us in the Quran, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Surely you have an excellent example for your guidance in the life of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We are told to follow the Sirah, and these are lessons from the Sirah. These 15 years are a part of it, which we need to learn from and reflect upon. The character, the conduct, the appreciation of the Muslims in Abyssinia serves as a timely example for us. The peaceful coexistence serves as a timely example for us, especially for Muslims living in non-Muslim majority lands. And Najashi al-Asama accepted Islam later on, but the Muslims always remained appreciative and remained grateful.